If you can stick to it, then you have the right hustle. Stick to it is hustle. Hi, my name is Vivek. I'm one of the 3 founders of Burgerama. We are a cloud kitchen chain based out of Gurgaon, and we started back in 2018. We are basically a fast, casual QSR upgrade of an American experience that you get abroad. We wanted to bring authentic burgers to India. You know, we enter this world just on a bit of a dream and a wish. I think that's part of our success story as well, honestly speaking, because had we been chef-driven and very fancy, or wanted to, stamp our own authority or signature on the product, then we wouldn't have been able to create a scalable brand that has its own identity. Plus that Anadipan, it meant that we figured things out. We learned, like you were talking about 0 to 1, we had to learn 0 to 10, and 1 being just the concept, and then what is a fryer, what are cold zones in oil, what kind of griddles do we need. Early days, there was myself, Kabir, Viraj, the 3 partners, 2 employees manning the kitchen in our first outlet in Sushant Lok. Kabir was on the grills, I was on the dispatch, Viraj was on the packaging, and that's how we learned the ins and out of our business. You know, it's something that you learn. Even if you come into a business idea, I feel, this is my thought, with a whole bunch of background knowledge, you still have to start at the grassroots. You still have to learn how your business ticks, what makes your customer tick. If you can get to those, answers without doing the hustle, then, show me how, because I don't think so. So the 3 of us are actually childhood friends. We had a couple of shared passions. We had music, travel, and of course food. So every time a friend of ours was coming or family member was coming from abroad, we'd ask them to pack a couple of burgers from the duty free. We thought it was a problem unique to us, but after Burgerama started, a lot of people told us, boss, now we don't need to go abroad to have our cheeseburgers, we have them here. Number 1, most of business was moving online. So there was a lot of delivery happening. So people were expecting these experiences sitting at home. And number 2, the big players, the big, guys of the burger world had been in India for a long time, and they had Indianized their product so that it could become acceptable to the Indian masses. At this point, back in 2018, segmentation had happened. Now there were enough people who were saying, we want a burger, but we want that original experience. We don't want this Indianized burger. It might have been a small population then, but it's been growing and growing since. So we did a lot of research. We studied a lot of videos, a lot of cookbooks, recipes. We didn't have any consultants per se, but we, again, did all the experimentation on our own in Kabir's kitchen. We would combine our own home recipes with things we learned online. We started baking buns, and it was the entire process. COVID was a classic example of sudden adversity that you have to overcome. You have to find a way to make it work. We were lightning quick in the way we responded. That's what I feel saved us. If we had waited around and waited to understand what the market and what the environment was going to be, we would have sunk. We would have lost our team. We were a small company at the time. But literally the day that the lockdown was announced, my partners and I, we went rushing to the police stations. We took entire lists of our staff to get the SHOs to sign off, to make sure that because we were delegated as an essential service, there would be not even a hiccup in our operation. Still remember the day that particular burger, the American cheeseburger experience recipe, was cracked. I was in the kitchen, we had made this burger, the boys went out, they took a bite each, and I was talking to somebody and they walked in and their eyes were like this wide. They're like, boss, try it. And then I had a bite and my eyes also went that wide. It was the eureka moment that a lot of people talk about. That was it for us. Futurama is a massive inspiration for us. When we were bouncing around ideas of what the name should be, I had one simple thing. I said, boss, if we can make it one word, and if it can have burger in there somewhere, so that most things are answered for the customer just by reading the name, and then if we can make it snappy, obviously roll off the tongue. Some corner of the room spouted Burgerama, and it just stuck. Because we all liked Futurama, there was an immediate connection with that, and we subsequently named burgers in our menu on the back of Futurama characters. Very small little nuggets of Easter eggs that if you know kind of situation. The marketing of a digital brand, you don't have all the touch points that a customer normally has or that a brand normally has with a customer. Also, you don't have so much control over how the customer is going to receive the information. What we knew from the beginning was that our brand was going to be delivery heavy to begin with. Hence, our marketing money was funneled towards the aggregators and in creating brand recognition. So visibility, those kind of things. The reason why the bulk of our money also went into the aggregators is there's a defined funnel. We could understand, we pour how much on the top and what we're going to get out at the bottom. So that was the initial stage of marketing for Burgerama, but then the brand started creating its own personality. That was not up to us. So I mean, I might say something that's a little counter to what other people believe, but your brand isn't defined by the company. The brand is defined by the customers. If you take a summation of what each customer thinks and you distill it into one can of hustle, that is the brand. But if you think you're going to go out and tell the customer what he's supposed to think of you, XYZ, I'm sorry, that's a bit of wishful thinking. You can push the agenda, you can push the narrative in a direction. So we knew that we were a space, young, youth-oriented, exciting brand. We knew we had a lot of that to leverage. In short, the brand is just a collection of what all our customers think of it. Touch wood, they think well of the brand. So the P's of marketing, all of that good stuff, I'm sure everybody knows. But if you create a perfect blend of all those P's, then you have struck on lightning. So whether it's the price or the positioning or the packaging, all of these things need to come into one coherent story where, in our case, a delivery customer sitting at home, he receives a package. Before even getting into the food, the color is speaking to him, the logo is speaking to him, the way the bag is open and what he sees inside reminds him of unpacking Christmas gifts. The product integrity is in place. We also use bagasse packaging, which is 100% biodegradable, compostable. We never shout about it because it's something we do for ourselves. But the customer who sees it and recognizes it, he really understands then what the character of the brand is. So I'm a firm believer in character versus personality. I think there are a lot of brands out there that shout about their personality, but they don't have deep character. We've tried to create a very character-based brand. We look after our employees in a certain way. We talk to each other in a certain way. There's a degree of respect from the top to the bottom that I feel is part of what creates that essential sauce to make a successful brand. Before we started Burgerama, we didn't know what product, we didn't know what the appeal was. Once that eureka moment happened and we hit that product that really satisfied our cravings, every iteration of that product, whichever form, we had a simple rule: it has to make all three of us happy. It has to make Viraj happy in his capacity, it has to make Kabir happy in his thought process, and it has to make me happy. That was your number one level of, filtering. After that, we did another smart move. We wanted to experience the product in the way that the customer would receive it. You can make great burgers hot off the grill, eat them all day long, and you won't have a complaint. You put that same burger in a box and send it for 35 minutes or 40 minutes of transit to get it to somebody's house. There are good burgers and there are bad burgers in that world. So we did a lot of those kind of trials. We took the customer's perspective as king. Of course, everybody keeps saying customer is king, but it's not good enough to just say it. You have to actually put yourself in the customer's shoes and then experience your brand. If you can perfect that, yeah, you're good. Then you can create a proper brand. So far, we have not franchised. We are only a delivery brand at the moment. But we have always had aspirations to create a franchisable model. Whether we franchise or not, that's a secondary thing. The franchisable model is, again, from that previous point that I was making, that it has to be scalable. If we don't have systems that are tight enough and strong enough that even a person from outside comes in with a couple of weeks or a month of training, gets it, then it's a skill-based thing. We are looking to possibly get into the franchise. Let's see how that works out. Again, we want to create the model. Whether we do it or not, that's a separate thing. Now it's time for Burgerama, the digital brand, the brand that everybody really enjoys ordering at home, also to have a little bit of a presence. So we're working on some concepts, some retail frontage designs. We feel that the brand itself has a lot of character, so bringing that out is very important. We want to do it justice. So yeah, we're looking to start some Burgerama frontage stores. That's the next stage. it's hindsight is 2020. You can always look back and say, this would have been better, that would have been better. Of course, we go through those moments. We have had experiences that were, adverse, that we've had to overcome. And sometimes it was in the planning of a store, the choosing of a location, or things like that, which, of course, now you look back and you think, maybe I should have done this or that. But at the end of the day, the failures and the successes all contribute to get you to the point you are. So if perhaps we had made that change then, even if now looking back, we can say that it could have been good, but it might not have gotten us to where we are right now. So no, I would do this journey again and again every single day of the week. The beauty of it is I work with my best friends. So, I'm always happy. Ideas, there are dime a dozen, but if you don't have backbone to execute, then you might as well park your idea or give it to somebody else. It's all about having the gumption, the will, the desire to go the extra mile, to actually put what your idea and your thought is into practice. Now, I understand for first-time entrepreneurs, it sounds like a scary or daunting task, but my only advice is don't wait for perfection. Start. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll be able to achieve some form of, or get close to perfection. Later you start, and the more you start to ideate, further out your plan will become. So just get going. That's my advice. What got us here isn't going to get us there, which means it's a constant process of upgrading yourself, upgrading your skills, upgrading your thought process. I feel that an entrepreneur needs to understand is, even if you have a eureka moment, even if you create a product, even if you have a fantastic recipe, if you don't think of scale from day one, it's not going to be something that will happen on its own later on. You have to start thinking about growth, multiplication, scale, how you're going to keep this business going to the next level from the very foundation stone. There's a very big difference between a good employee and a successful entrepreneur. A good employee is not concerned about creating systems, adding, new efficiencies and layering, processes on processes to make a better outcome. He's just following the business, like he's following the process that's laid out. In Burgerama, we value two people really highly in our organization, those that follow the system. Of course, you always need those, but even more than them, those who create systems. If you don't have people who have ownership, who are willing to, go out of their way and say that, no, boss, I think that if we did this would be better, then, you're creating a culture of sheep. We try to give people ownership so that they, the feedback loop is always there. India has been this incredible hotbed of entrepreneurial spirit, of tech innovation, of, there's a lot of stuff that's been happening here. I can name 10 startups that I really looked up to. Very different from our sector, or my sector and yours, is Zerodha. The way that they've created a business, the product, they just focus on product. They said, the boss, this world is going to need something for retail investors, retail traders, people to get to understand. They can follow things very simply. Before this, there was nothing. There was bank stuff which was horrendous. Now, all of a sudden, they created this product that was so easy for anybody to use. They just focused all their chips on making that product right. I feel that's a fantastic way to approach a problem. And that other point that I raised earlier, they thought scale from day one. They created coding, they created infrastructure in such a way that tomorrow they go from 10 users to 10 million users, they'd still be able to handle that traffic. So execution, that's one of the brands I admire. Of course, there are a lot of international brands, Apple, Diesel. Amongst the homegrown brands, Jimmy's Cocktail is somebody who's done a great thing. Wingreens, I love the way that they've created a name for themselves. I feel these moments, when you look back, there are some critical moments that if you took the wrong decision in that time, then, everything would have changed. But if you can just make the right decisions at the right time, that is what I feel the real hustle is.